how do we know if our themes are strong enough or if we're just making random categories? Matthew, do you have any suggestions on how to feel confident about your themes?
Yeah, so a couple of thoughts here. First, I would say that the qualitative analysis process is very intuitive. And so there is a certain level of sort of gut checking. Does this all really align and does this all make sense? It's up to you as the researcher to then defend that to others, right? That's why we call it a defense at the end of our dissertation, because we're going to defend why we picked those codes and those categories. So there is a little bit of just sort of intuition and discretion that goes into that process. Feeling uncertain about that, I think, is normal, especially as we're going through the dissertation process, because that imposter syndrome, that little voice comes in and says, you're not good enough, you're not ready to do this. And it's important that we just push that aside and plow forward. In addition to that, as you're doing your categories, you need to be checking those every time you open it against your research questions and make sure that these categories align not just to the text that you've analyzed, but to the questions you're trying to answer. And that mismatch does happen from time to time. We get so into our codes that we forget that our codes are supposed to answer a question. So making sure that there's a clear line between your category and your research question is really important. That's how you're going to defend that category at the end.
I think that's really helpful because it is really difficult. Qualitative analysis, by definition, is somewhat subjective. And so it can be quite overwhelming when you're like, is this what it's saying? Can I trust this? Importantly, also keep in mind, is this what multiple participants are saying? Sometimes it can be a unique, specific opinion that is really interesting and worth engaging. But if you're worried about your theme, if it's only come up once, one code, one time, maybe that's not a very strong theme. But if you find people saying very similar ideas, that really gives you the confidence behind your codes as well. As a follow up, Matthew, what would you say is the biggest red flag you see when it comes to assigning themes?
So for me, the biggest red flag is when I ask my client, where did this theme come from? And they can't clearly articulate that for me. That to me is a big red flag. That shows a lack of critical thought, a lack of critical engagement with the data. It also makes me wonder if they've pumped this into an AI tool and it's just spit some themes out for them. And even if you do that, you need to be able to defend that theme and connect it back to your data, connect it back to your research question. So that is my number one red flag. When I ask that question and a client can't respond, we're stopping the session. We got to fix this problem before we move on.